everyone. This is Jamie Sumner, Chief Analyst here at Seafried and Brew, and welcome back to our weekly briefing. For this week's weekly briefing, we want to take a look at some of the business outlook surveys that have come out, particularly the one that came out last week from the Philadelphia Fed. So when we look at these different business outlook surveys, basically what we want to do is look at what that diffusion index is telling us as far as what has happened month over month or quarter over quarter, depending on how often they are released. And the Philly Fed does a great job with their information here. They release it on a monthly basis, and you can get to this report by a link down here in the corner when you download this presentation. But overall, when we look at the Business Outlook Survey, what we can see is that the diffusion index overall with general business activity increased month over month, went from a 22 back in April up to a 38.8 in May. So we had a pickup with inside of the general business activity. But when we look at the different indicators of businesses, we can see that the new orders came down slightly from a 27.4 to a 25.4. We can see here that inventories came down from a 17.8 to a 1.4. Now for me that's kind of worrisome because that's going to indicate that potentially within the second quarter GDP we can continue to see a pull off with inside the inventory numbers here. And then we look at the number of employees went from a 19.9 to a 17.3, so down just a little bit, but the average work week went from an 18.9 to a 21.7, so indicating there's been an increase in the overall level of the average employee work week. So that's a positive for the pocketbooks of the employees. Overall, that's what happened within the May to April changes. But when we look at the 6 month looking out, so this is projecting out 6 months from now, we can see when we look at it overall, the diffusion index came down from a 45.4 to a 34.8. So we saw a pullback with inside that number. And then we could look at the different iterations or the different indicators of the different businesses down here, and we can see that the overall work week anticipated went from a 15.6 down to a 0.3, so showing a slowing down of the overall work week, as well as the capital expenditures at that 36.5 down to a 32.6. So little changes, but overall we did see a decline in the expectation. When we look at it historically, we can see where we are. This black line on top is a 6 month forecast. You can see how it came down here, while the orange line here kind of picked up, and that's the current. So overall, currently we saw an uptick in that diffusion index, while when we look at the 6 month forecast, we saw a little bit of a pull off. So it'd be interesting to see how this rolls through the next couple of months in here and how that translates into the GDP for the second quarter of 2017. There are a number of different business indexes that you can look at. There's one put out by the Chicago Fed, which is what we'll look at in just a minute. And then there's also one put out by the Texas Fed as well, which is pretty extensive. But when we look at the overall economy, we don't look at the index of leading economic indicators. And you can see anything above this 2% line here kind of indicates a growing economy, a fairly strong economy, and that's where we've been in here for a little bit. We've leveled out with the most recent release coming down here, and it's currently at a 3.2, but we have pulled off slightly from the prior release. Looking at the Chicago Fed, overall business activity up. We look up 13. Anything above 0 would be a positive outlook on the economy. Looking at the two components here, manufacturing, big number, up 50. You can see how it really shot up for this month. We look at non-manufacturing though, and we're down to a -8. So very pessimistic on the non-manufacturing. And when we look at that non-manufacturing, those are basically the retail sales and items such as that. So we look at retail sales month over month. We can see where we are right now at 0.3% increase. And we can see how that has come down from where we were back in January when we were above that 1% on the revised numbers. And now we're down to that 0.3. So we kind of lackadaisical with inside the retail sales number, questioning whether or not we're going to get the stronger GDP for the second quarter coming in here in the next couple of months. So that's what we have for you this week. Just want to give a little business outlook overview. So when we're looking at this, fairly positive in here on the business side. Capital expenditures continue to be promising. Hopefully that's going to translate into your loan portfolio. However, we do have that drag on that retail sector, which is what we're hoping is going to turn around in here. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you back here next week.